The basement floor of Typhoon Digital's New York headquarters was always 10 degrees colder than the rest of the building. It hummed constantly, servers, cooling systems, machines, breathing in silence, and that sound, that mechanical lullaby, was the only company Elena Ruiz ever needed. She liked it that way. People upstairs forgot about the floor entirely. Executives didn't even know there was a sublevel C. It wasn't on most of the building maps. There was no espresso machine, no standing desks, no glass wall conference rooms. Just racks and racks of blinking servers. And Elena for 5 years. She was the invisible backbone of Typhoon's infrastructure. She didn't network, she didn't socialize, she didn't attend birthday lunches or the company karaoke nights. But when something broke, when someone couldn't access a drive, or a VPN failed during a board presentation, her phone rang and she always answered. It started with a username. She noticed it one night deep in the logs. The name was familiar, too familiar. Arrow is temp. She didn't create that account. She never used temp for any credentials. It looked innocuous enough. Limited permissions created late at night by someone with root access. No one would have seen it unless they were already watching. She was watching. Elena traced it. It had accessed internal network directories and executed a small script that sent pings to an external server. It could have been an innocent diagnostic, but it wasn't. She flagged it, documented it, reported it. The reply came 6 hours later, and one line reviewed. No issue found, resumes. Standard monitoring, its security director. That was when she knew Elena started backing up everything logs. Internal chat messages, code commits. Admin activity, she didn't store it on her company drive. She hid it in a training video. An internal employee onboarding clip on secure password protocols. 5 seconds of black screen between slides. That's where the real data lived, compressed, encrypted and invisible to anyone not looking for it. She didn't panic, she waited. Then one morning, she arrived to find her badge deactivated. Her laptop gone, her access revoked. 2 security guards escorted her upstairs. They didn't make eye contact. No one from HR came, no email. No meeting, just a man in a dark suit. Someone from legal handed her a generic termination letter. You've been found in breach of internal security protocols. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. That was it, no discussion. No appeal, no one said her name. The hardest part wasn't the humiliation. It wasn't being walked out of the building like a criminal. It was the blank faces of the people she had saved countless times. Engineers, execs, even the CEO once during a keynote. They watched her walk by, no one spoke. But Elena didn't cry because this moment, she had planned for it, and no one ever suspected the quiet girl in the basement. That evening, Elena sat in her apartment, their fingers poised above her laptop. Her mind quiet, her expression blank. The glow from the monitor cast soft shadows across her cheekbones. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, you should have kept your mouth shut. She didn't reply, she archived the message. She opened her video folder, found the employee password guidelines version 3.mp4 file. Clicked, the screen blinked. Her script ran silently, she was already inside again. The company thought they erased her. They didn't realize she was the one who designed their erasure protocols. In the following days, she mapped everything. Who logged in, when, from where, what files they opened. She saw emails sent between managers, the very ones who accused her, celebrating a successful containment. They had needed a scapegoat. She was perfect. They forgot she knew where the bones were buried. Literally in the audit logs. One evening, while monitoring a backup server, Elena stumbled on something unexpected. A chain of emails that revealed the script used to frame her. Was initially created 6 months ago by the security director himself. It had Elena's name written into it from the beginning. She whispered aloud for the first time in days. This wasn't personal, it was premeditated. But now it was personal. The winter wind rattled the windows of Elena Ruiz's apartment, but she barely noticed. Her world had shrunk to the glow of 3 monitors, each tracking a different layer of Typhoon Digital's sprawling infrastructure. She wasn't just inside their system anymore. She was inside them, every login, Every line of code, every errant keystroke echoed back to her. Typhoon thought she was gone, but Elena was a ghost in their machine. Her first move was not revenge. Not yet first. She wanted the truth, the full map of the betrayal. Who signed off on her termination? Who wrote the script? Who altered the logs? The deeper she dug, the more rot she uncovered. It wasn't just the security director. It was a quiet cabal of 4 executives, each complicit, each benefiting from the erasure of a liability. Her name had become shorthand in their communications. The Ruiz issue containment protocols. One even joked next time, "Let's not hire a mole in the basement." She read that line 5 times. Her jaw clenched tighter each time. Her second move was data. Elena didn't want to crash systems or expose secrets. Not yet. She wanted leverage. So she set her own traps. She built dummy endpoints. Fake APIS, honeypot databases with tags labeled confidential and watched. And they came just like she expected. The security director's credentials pinged one of the traps, then the head of finance, then a junior developer. Using elevated access they should never have had. They were sloppy, comfortable, arrogant, perfect. Meanwhile, Elena rebuilt her own infrastructure on cloud servers under pseudonyms. She created mirrors of Typhoon's internal architecture. If Typhoon had a heartbeat, she had a shadow pulse. She could simulate their entire network now. Test attacks, watch reactions, predict chaos, but she wasn't rushing. Revenge that lasts isn't loud. It's surgical in the real world. Elena kept a low profile. She picked up freelance work through encrypted forums, solving high-level security issues for fintech startups, developers. She used the money to fund her private servers, pay for anonymous proxies, and stockpile digital tools. But every night after the freelance jobs were done, she returned to Typhoon. That was when she noticed something strange. Buried in a server backup from 6 months ago, there was an encrypted folder, unusual file size modified at 3 a.m., a time when most changes were automated, but this one, it had a human fingerprint. Manual save it took her 2 days to break the encryption. Inside was a folder named Sylvan. Contents a cache of emails between the CEO and the security director, dozens of attachments, schematics, code. Financial statements, it was a project. But not a public one, not one ever mentioned in press releases or roadmaps. Sylvan was an off-the-books AI initiative, one that scraped massive data sets without user consent. Data from smart devices, voice assistants, home security cameras. The ethics violations were staggering, and Elena realized why she'd been erased. She'd stumbled to close that dummy account. Arrow is Temp had pinned a directory tied to Sylvan. Her system had logged the access. Even if she hadn't understood it at the time, they needed to clean it up. So they'd cleaned her up. Her hands hovered over the keyboard. She could leak Sylvan, blow the whistle, go to the press, go to the feds, watch Typhoon implode in a tangle of lawsuits and public scandal. But then they'd know it was her, and more importantly, it would be over too fast. She wanted them to sweat, to unravel, to look over their shoulders for weeks, months, wondering when and how it would come. So instead, she started talking to them. The emails were anonymous. "Have you ever heard of Sylvan?" "I have. Interesting server traffic from Exec Lounge TP. H at 3 a.m. You really should update your encryption standards." They're embarrassing. Each message was clean. Untraceable, sent from public terminals. Onion routers bouncing through a dozen countries. She sent one to the CEO's personal account, another to the CFO, one to the security director with a single line subject. "Try harder," she waited. The panic was subtle at first, then urgent. They launched an internal audit. Replaced several encryption keys, suspended a junior CIS admin, hired an outside firm to consult on internal vulnerabilities. But none of it mattered. Elena had already mapped their shadows, and now she started flipping switches. One Friday morning, the financial director's presentation to the board failed to load. 2 minutes before the call, the VPN went down, the archive backups corrupted. He scrambled, blamed it. yelled at assistants. Elena watched it all on the admin camera feeds. Then that night she restored everything just like that, as if nothing had happened. The chaos was a whisper, a ghost. No one could trace it, and now they knew someone was in their house. By mid-February, Typhoon Digital's executive floor was a nest of paranoia. Elena monitored them through badge logs, meeting room mics, elevator patterns. She listened to the CFO have a nervous breakdown in his car, watched the security director delete years of email logs, only to realize too late that Elena had already made perfect snapshots. She wasn't just haunting them, she was dissecting them still. She needed an endgame, a final domino. Then it came to her, the board. The executives were puppets, but the board, that was the hand. So Elena gathered a dossier, anonymized, professional. Every unethical decision, every complicit signature. Timeline evidence transcripts. She printed it on archival paper, bound it, numbered the pages. And one Monday morning, 7 black envelopes were delivered to 7 board members. Across 4 states, no fingerprints, no digital trail, no demands. Just truth. Typhoon stock began slipping. 3 days later, the security director resigned. The following week, the CEO took an indefinite leave of absence. 10 days after that, 3 federal agencies launched inquiries. And Elena Ruiz, invisible again, watched it all from her quiet apartment. The servers hummed just like before. Only now they hummed for her. Elena Ruiz didn't expect silence to be this loud. Weeks had passed since the black envelopes hit the board's mailboxes, and the fallout at Typhoon Digital had been relentless. The headlines rolled in like a slow tsunami. SEC investigations, whistleblower speculation, data ethics violations. Elena watched it all, sipping cheap tea in the amber glow of her monitors. She didn't smile, not yet. It wasn't finished. The board was bleeding, but the body hadn't collapsed. Typhoon had named an interim CEO, a woman from a compliance background, with polished PR skills and a calm managerial tone. She gave a public statement promising transparency, trust, and transformation. Elena rolled her eyes. Trust? They didn't even know she was still inside. Because while the public Typhoon scrambled to survive the real Typhoon, the engine behind the curtain was still active. The Sylvan servers were humming. Their dev team was smaller, now reduced to only the most loyal or paranoid engineers. But Elena was still patched and invisible. Her rootkit was deeper than ever. She'd given it a name, Icarus. A living ghost. An autonomous agent embedded inside Typhoon's core systems. Icarus monitored everything. Network traffic builds, repo commits, even Slack messages. And it didn't just watch, it learned. Elena hadn't created a virus. She'd created a mirror of their behavior. The more Icarus observed, the more it predicted. The AI could anticipate patch cycles. It suggested injection points. It even flagged patterns of deception. Devs who deliberately obscured changes. Managers who sidestepped audits. Executives who opened burner accounts. Elena felt it happening. She was no longer just fighting them. She was studying them. One Thursday afternoon, she watched a peculiar commit in the Sylvan repo. A developer named Theo Chan had added a new function, Obscure Path. The function masked certain directories from automated legal, finance, and something typed simply deep copy. The commit message was vague optimization for sandbox environments. But Elena knew Theo was hiding something. She set Icarus to trace his patterns, VPN usage, branch naming, idle times. The AI reported back with growing suspicion. Theo had spun up a hidden sub-environment within Sylvan, protected with dual-layer encryption and a decoy front end that mimicked a training server. Even to internal scans, it looked benign. Elena smirked, sloppy. She dove in manually. It took her 4 hours to crack the second layer. What she found stopped her breath. Inside the hidden environment was a project labeled Dryad, a sibling to Sylvan, but darker. This one wasn't just collecting data, it was curating it. Audio streams, facial recognition snapshots, GPS history, smart home activity logs, all filtered, cross-referenced, and indexed. Tagged with labels like impulse spike, Political threat, high conversion target. She kept reading Dryad wasn't just an experiment. It was live, it had partners. Elena stared at the partner keys embedded in the handshake code. Government domains, defense contractors, a marketing firm with direct ties to 2 major election campaigns. She pushed away from her keyboard. This wasn't surveillance anymore. This was weaponized psychology. Real-time behavior prediction. And Typhoon had been selling it off. Book Sylvan had been the surface. DRYAD was the rot beneath it. Elena knew she needed a bigger play. The stakes had changed. Icarus was already digesting Dryad, mapping its dependencies, learning its protocols. But the scope of it all, the power, the reach meant she couldn't just rattle chains. She needed to expose it in a way that couldn't be spun or silenced. So she went hunting through data dumps. She traced payments from dummy shell companies to Theo Chan and 3 other engineers. She followed metadata from DIAD's logs to a satellite office in Atlanta, one listed as RD Overflow in Typhoon's org chart. But that office was never mentioned in meeting logs, never cited in board reports. It didn't even have a proper building access ID. Elena cross-referenced the address with regional security footage. Delivery trucks came and went every Friday. No uniforms, no badging, just plainclothes technicians. She marked it Extraction Node Alpha. Meanwhile, Typhoon's upper brass was flailing Slack messages, buzzed with suspicion and fear. Elena monitored dozens of internal channels. Any update from compliance? How the hell did the board find out about legacy builds? Legal says to say nothing. The interim CEO held a closed-door meeting with senior staff. Elena watched through a mic in the ceiling panel. We're facing coordinated interference. The woman said, someone is actively sabotaging us and it's coming from within. Within, she was right. But not in the way she thought. Elena didn't sleep for 3 days. She prepped a full Dryad archive. Redacted enough to protect her own tracks, but detailed enough to burn Typhoon to the ground. Every record was time-stamped, hashed and triple-backed up. She called it the Cedar Protocol. She knew once she launched it, there'd be no return, no more ghost in the wires. She would become fire, but she also knew this couldn't be a simple leak. If she dropped Cedar on the open web, Typhoon's lawyers would move fast, deny, distract, delay. They painted as stolen data, manipulated code, so instead, she built an interactive portal, one where journalists, academics, and regulators could search through Dryad's files in real time. Transparent, public, immutable. She coded it from scratch, designed a front end that looked like a cross between a museum archive and a courtroom exhibit. And then she seeded it, sent the portal link to a dozen trusted cybersecurity experts, to a whistleblower protection group, to a civil rights lawyer who'd once defended her cousin, and finally to a retired journalist who still had the ear of the right people. She hit send, and then for the first time in months, she stepped away from the keyboard. It took less than 24 hours. Cedar Protocol trended globally. News outlets exploded with headlines. Secret AI surveillance program exposed. Typhoon accused of mass data manipulation. Weaponized behavior profiling. Sold to defense partners. Elena didn't watch the news. She just watched the stock ticker and the resignation letters. And the federal subpoenas. And the blinking cursor on her now empty command line. By spring, Typhoon Digital was no longer a company. It was an ongoing criminal investigation. The interim CEO resigned, the board dissolved itself. Dryad was classified by federal authorities. Elena Ruiz vanished into the noise. No one ever proved her involvement. No one ever found Icarus, and somewhere in a quiet apartment, far from the ashes of Typhoon's empire, 3 monitors still glowed. The servers still hummed, only now they were learning something new. They were learning freedom. Elena Ruiz had never been one to seek the spotlight. Shadows suited her better. They offered anonymity protection. But when the Cedar Protocol dropped and the world turned upside down, the spotlight found her anyway. She was a ghost, but ghosts don't always vanish completely. Some linger watching the chaos unfold. In chaos, there was Typhoon. Digital's ruin was a slow-motion avalanche. Every news outlet, every government hearing, every whispered rumor traced back to the digital worm Alina had set loose. But the fallout wasn't just public. It was personal. Her phone had stopped ringing except for one number. The number she hadn't dialed back in years. Her old handler, the one who had pulled her out of obscurity and into the darknet labyrinth years ago. They wanted her back 2 days after the Cedar Protocol leak. Alina found herself in a nondescript cafe, tucked away in the back streets of Brooklyn. The barista knew her order by heart. Black coffee, no sugar. But this time she barely touched it. The man waiting at the corner table was older, sharp-eyed and dressed in a way that screamed official, without actually screaming. Still running, he said without preamble. Impressive Alina didn't smile. Why are you here, Marcus? He folded his hands. Because they want to know who did this. And you're the only one who could. She sipped her coffee. I don't want to play their game anymore. Marcus leaned forward, voice dropping. This isn't about their game. It's bigger, much bigger. Back in the shadows of her apartment, Alina powered up her 3 monitors. The hum of the servers was comforting now, almost like breathing her digital ghost. Icarus was still alive, evolving. Watching Marcus's words echoed. It's bigger. She had a sinking feeling he was right. In the aftermath of the Cedar Protocol, governments scrambled to plug the gaps Typhoon had left behind. New task forces, new regulations, even talk of international treaties on AI surveillance. But none of it would matter if the underlying system stayed intact. The same AI models, the same data streams, the same exploit paths, just under different names. That night, Elena's screen flickered as an encrypted message pinged through Icarus. Phoenix Protocol initiated. She found no sender ID. No trace, only code. Layers upon layers of obfuscation. She ran it through Icarus's filters. This wasn't just another leak. It was a blueprint, a map for rebuilding. Elena spent the next 48 hours parsing the code. It was breathtaking in scope and ambition, a full redesign of AI surveillance architectures, but with open source transparency baked in. Phoenix Protocol wasn't just about control. It was about balance. It aimed to create AI systems accountable to the public, built on decentralized networks, immune to corporate capture or government misuse. And it came with a challenge. Could someone with Elena's skills take this blueprint and turn it into a new reality? The question haunted her. She had burned bridges, burned paths, yet here was a chance to build something better. She reached out to the same cybersecurity experts she had trusted, with CIDR to whistleblower organizations, to developers hungry for change. Together, they formed a coalition. Weeks turned into months. Elena orchestrated a covert network of coders, lawyers, activists, and hackers. The Phoenix Protocol became a living project. And transparent, secure Icarus, once a shadow inside a corrupt system, was now its guardian. It monitored for abuse, flagged anomalies, provided transparency reports accessible to anyone. But change never came easy. The corporate powers and shadow agencies that thrived on opaque control data pushed back. Elena faced targeted cyber attacks, smear campaigns, and attempts to infiltrate the coalition. Her apartment was broken into once, her identity nearly exposed. Another time she learned to move faster, think smarter. One evening, as rain hammered her window pane, Elena received a message: "You're not alone anymore." She glanced at her screen. Across the world, hundreds of screens flickered to life: activists, coders, citizens logging into the Phoenix network. Her heart swelled. This wasn't just a fight. It was a movement. In the months that followed, the Phoenix Protocol gained traction. Governments began adopting parts of its framework. Tech companies started open sourcing their AI models. Public awareness surged. The age of unaccountable AI surveillance was ending. Elena sat back in her chair, eyes tired but hopeful. She'd started as a lone ghost in the wires. Now she was a spark lighting a global fire. She reached out and typed a simple message to her coalition. We rise from ashes, we become the fire. And for the first time in years, she smiled. The screen dimmed. The servers hummed, and somewhere deep inside the code, Icarus watched, ready,